Architectural Board Review for August 8th of 2022. Start with a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and take a roll call. Chair Moore?
Here.
Vice Chair Six?
Here.
Board Member Anderson?
Here.
Board Member Black?
Here.
Board Member Noon?
Here.
Board Member Olson?
Here.
Board Member Whalen?
Here.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that's not on today's agenda. Do we have any speaker slips or online folks?
Thank you, Chair Moore. I do not have any attendees in Zoom, so I also do not have any speaker slips. We did receive some written correspondence from Jor Mockridge, Jay Johan, Stephanie Manson-Hing, Elizabeth Flanagan, Nora Gallagher, Christine Dean, Jonathan Cook, and Graciela Montgomery, which was distributed to the board prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we can close public comment and we'll go on to approval of the minutes for July 25th.
So moved.
Okay,
Under discussion.
yes.
So I would like to go to the motion for item, the big one, Mason Street, page 6. And it's always bugged me on the second comment. I think we meant to say, and went way back when, the 4th story is clustered at the center of the project.
So, just pardon my interruption, I don't believe, is it showing on there? No, just because I'm sharing on my screen, they won't be able to view it on the table monitors. When I share my screen,
Theirs is just blank right now.
oh, well, it's, there's a button at the bottom, but I can come fix that after we go through the minutes.
I think I made these original comments, and the comment number 2 was that the 4th story is clustered at the center of the project. So I would like that clarified. And then if somebody would help me on item 10, I'm not sure, and perhaps the public and maybe some of the board members are not sure which loading dock area is
Yes.
for greater public access.
That was on Santa Barbara Street, the southeast corner.
Could we identify that then
Yeah.
and say
Be
the
specific.
Santa Barbara Street loading dock area? And, well, the original historic loading dock at the very south east
That's
corner.
the same
Oh,
one.
that's the same
Yeah.
one? Okay,
so.
okay.
But it's good to be specific.
And then on the number E of the compatibility findings, I think public views are meant to be delineated specific gathering locations. That's kind of a general idea, and we should just shorten it to there are no public views affected.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, let's take a vote, please.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent calendar for August 1st. We could have those up.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had one review after final at 812 San Pasqual Street that received review after final as submitted. Item B, 820 Bond Avenue, was a proposal to alter an existing wireless communication facility that was continued indefinitely with comments. Other alternative roof designs need exploration. Item C, 201 South Milpas Street, was a proposal for a new 50-foot wireless communication tower. That was continued indefinitely with comments as well. And that was it for the August 1st consent hearing.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right. Any discussion? Nope, let's vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Olson,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and August 8th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. 116 East Coda Street was a review after final for revisions to the backflow prevention device and landscape revisions. That received final approval with the condition that the landscape plan be updated to show the backflow device location. Item B, 203 Ladera Street, minor site work was approved as submitted today. And last but not least, 122 Via Alicia, new deck, a raised deck, and 80 square foot patio was also approved with the condition that the homeowners association will be obligated to revise any landscaping that is impacted by construction.
Okay.
And those were the only three items. Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, and I'll second that. And under discussion on the first item, for item A, the condition was that the landscape plan shall be updated to show all backflow devices and the fire backflow device.
Thank you.
Okay?
Seconder approves. Oh, no, the motioner approves.
The maker of the motion approves. Okay. Let's vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, any announcements, et cetera?
Yes, two announcements today. Item number 2, 518 East Haley Street was postponed per the applicant's request, so we will have to skip that item. And the earliest we could hear item number 3 would be at 4 p.m., and that would be for 311 West Montecito Street. And then item 4, the last item on the agenda is just being continued indefinitely, so no hearing will be held for that item. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any future agenda items? So-
Mr. Chair, if I could, I just want to make one other announcement, and this is just a future announcement that I'm working with the city attorney's office and the staffer over in sustainability and resilience department to do a short training on new solar and electric vehicle charging station training for you all. So it does, the regulations that went into effect in January affect projects and how they're reviewed. And so I just want to give an update to the board. So we'll be following up on that in the next couple months.
Okay, thanks. Any subcommittee reports?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm going to miss 2 consent meetings, the last one of September and the first one of October. If someone would like to trade a time that they're going to miss, I would exchange. Last September, 1st October, consent.
Okay. Can staff put an email out to kind of facilitate? That'd be great.
I'll follow up with an email.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. How are we doing? 3:15. Okay. Well, I guess we can move on to our first item then.
Where is it? Right underneath? I see the blue light right there.
Yeah.
So that's the on button?
Yeah, I think any of these will,
Any of them?
if you touch it, it'll turn it off. So maybe if you're moving it, but it's.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I fully reviewed the video and the records for this. I was absent the last meeting where this was reviewed, but I'm fully up to grade and can participate today.
Excellent. Okay, so while you're getting set up here, this is 8 Ocean View Avenue, and the project consists of voluntary lot merger and demolition of all structures on 2 lots, including single-family residence, detached garage, 2 accessory buildings. 1 fruit tree, 3 palm trees are also proposed for removal, 1 single-family residence, 2 duplexes, and 2 detached special accessory dwelling units are proposed for a total of 7 units, 5 of which are considered primary units and 2 of which are accessory units. 14 vehicle spaces, 8 uncovered and 6 covered in a carport structure are proposed. 7 bike lockers and a trash enclosure are also proposed. Staff hearing officer approved a coastal development permit to allow proposed development in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. Final approval is requested and requires compliance with the plans. Granted project design approval on June 13th. Okay, welcome back. If we could have our motion, sorry. There it is. Just to refresh our memories. Okay, the applicant shall study the useful area of the common open space, study the number of, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, Hymenopterum flavum trees on Ocean Avenue. The board looks forward to the details of a window, sill, and tile next to it as a perforated metal balcony. Consider breaking up the wood fence line along the east and north. And then we went through the compatibility analysis findings. Okay. If you could take us through this.
Keely Greb with Arcadia Studio.
So I'll walk you through all the architectural detailing, site lighting, and then I'll hand it over to Kaylee to kind of go through the landscape comments, which I think were sort of the lion's share of what the board had to say last time. So site plan, as you may recall, parking to the north, central common open space. Site structures, so trash enclosure has plaster walls, cast-in-place columns, stained wood trellis, perforated metal doors, which match the decorative balconies on the buildings. These are the various trellis structures on the site. Let's see here.
It, let's give it a second just to see. It's a large plan set, so
Benefit of the doubt.
we might need to move a little slowly through them.
Okay. Boy. Let's see if I can just.
It might have crashed.
There we go. Well, while we're on this sheet, you want to tell us about the finishes? Is it a clear stain? Is it a,
It's going to be a semi-solid stain for the site trellises. The cast-in-place concrete's integral color. It's the Davis Colors pewter, and I have a color board on the elevations. The perforated metal is all painted with marine grade coatings, and it's just a black color, which you'll see ties in with the rest of the architecture. Let's see. Boy, this is not.
too many drawings?
Try zooming out, and then it might be able to render those pages a little more quickly.
Okay.
I can fill in the meantime if you would like to direct me through your presentation. This
Okay, if
computer
we
might
could-
be a little.
Just go to page 14, please. So this is just the detailing of the various site structures. So the trash enclosure wall, gate jams. Down in the lower left, we have a few locations at I'm sorry, to the next column over, details 6 and 7. We do have some, a few areas on the site with some small stairs, like 3 risers. So we have some decorative tile inset in the face of the stairs, and then a matching kind of decorative warning strip on the nosing. See if we can zoom out a little bit there. Yeah, so on the left-hand side are the wood fences on the site. So we have a 72-inch and a 42-inch variation of a horizontal wood slat fence. These are also going to be stained in the same color as the other wood on the site. The lower walls kind of enclose the entry door yards of the units on Ocean View Avenue, so those have double-sided while the others occur on property line. I think that's about it on this sheet. The detail 11 is just the plaster CMU walls that occur on the site as well. So we may recall we have a mixture of wood and plaster walls that surround the perimeter of the project on the public streets. And we can go to page 15. And we can probably scroll through the next 15 through 19 fairly quickly. These are just the floor plans. Roof plans show the solar PV zones, which is probably may or may not be of interest. Building 2, similarly. And next sheet, please. Building 3, same kind of thing. And next sheet, please. The 2 freestanding ADU units with their PV zones shown on the roof plan on the upper left, and the elevations you can see in the mid-left portion matches the detailing of the rest of the buildings, and I'll go into that when we get to the details. Let's go to page 20, please. If we could zoom in on that color board there on the left, thank you. So in keeping with the kind of modern take on kind of Spanish Revival elements, the building is white plaster, and then we have black fenestration. The decorative balconies perforated balconies are also black, as are the metal awnings. And then we have the inset of the decorative tile in kind of a somewhat abstract pattern, and those are shown there on the mid-right portion of the color board. So they're a mixture of 4 different glazed tile, and those are the stain colors for the wood. So we have a arbor coat staining, and then we kind of have a matching paint color for when we need to touch up some connections, that kind of thing. So that's sort of the color palette in general and the use on all the buildings. And we can zoom out, please. So again, these elements are repeated on all the buildings throughout the project. So the metal awnings, decorative tile, the trellises at doorways. There's a use of metal reglet control joints throughout, and you'll see that on the detailing pages. So we can kind of scroll through these next few sheets, I think, which is sort of the rest of the project. So building 2, similar usage. Next, please. And building 3, and then as you saw previously, the ADUs have the same architectural elements. Let's see, why don't we go to page 25, please? So detailing, why don't we start on the lower left, or I'm sorry, lower right. Boy. And what we go up to detail 2, so kind of in keeping with the modern take on the plaster usage, throughout we're using metal reveal reglets at all the corners and at various intersections of the skin. And scroll up, please. And that occurs as well at the soffits. Let's go back down. Yeah, so here's the typical detailing of the tile. So in a similar manner, we're using the metal reglets to separate the tile whenever it abuts plaster in the same plane. And then up above, detail 8 there, if we could just scroll up, is the various patterns that occur across the project. And let's see, to the upper left, why don't we go to there? So these are the metal awnings. So simple square steel tube frame, painted finish, and then a squared profile preformed metal roofing with the factory finish of the black color. And then we can go scroll down, please. And so a little more, there we go. So this is the detailing of the faux metal balconies. So again, similar square tube metal frame secured to the facade through the plaster. And then on the faces, we have welded these perforated metal panels, which are shown in detail 18 above. If we can just scroll down. Yeah, so those are the layouts of the perforated metal, and those are used throughout, and it's the same layout. And then those trash enclosure doors basically kind of take this pattern and double it vertically. Let's see if we go to next page, please. So lower right. And all the exterior walls are 2x6, so all the windows are recessed in the walls. We have decorative sills shown on detail 1, and we can just kind of scroll up there, and so window heads, and then the use of the tile above the windows as well. And why don't we go up to the top there? So these elevation details just show the relationship of the window frames, the reveal reglets, and the tile at the various edges of the window openings, and that's would be typical where that tile occurs. And I think you can zoom out. So that's about it for the doors and windows. Let's see, next sheet. Not too interesting, single ply membrane details. Let's see, why don't we go to sheet 67, please? This just shows the exterior lighting. So the typical exterior lighting, there's landscape lighting, which Kaylee will walk you through, but the building lighting, the typical fixture is the one on the lower left there, that simple black cylinder that's used at all the entry doors and rear doors. And then on the carport, we have this wedge fixture there shown right there. And those occur on the face of the columns that kind of light that surface area of the parking lot. And then just underneath the solid canopy of the carport are just some simple LED kind of trough fixtures. So that's kind of it for the architecture. Why don't we go to page 72, and Kaylee can walk you through the landscape, and we can address the various comments there.
Okay, so starting with the layout plan, one of the comments was to study how to make the common area a little bit more functional. And so we replaced the, previously we had a lawn alternative and it was planted. So we replaced it with stabilized decomposed granite, so it's a more flexible surface. Let's see, I don't know that there's too much else to address on the layout
Can you
plan.
zoom in a little bit on that courtyard?
Scan is a little hard to read. So just one detail that I think I mentioned last time, but where it looks like the pavers are inset, that those are unilock pavers that will play on the tile patterning that Keith has on the architecture. So that'll tie it into the site a bit. And other than that, it's colored textured concrete walkways, and then using concrete bands to stabilize the pavers and the decomposed granite area. So pretty simple materials. We can move on to the planting plan. Skin is so it's like grainy. That's the irrigation. So I think 2 more down probably. There we go. So one of the comments, one comment David had about maintenance with the sycamores, I reduced it from 3 to 1 sycamore overhanging the parking lot, reduced the amount of leaf litter. And then the more specific tree comment was to reduce the number of hymenosperm along Ocean View. And so we've mixed it up with some Laura Saratoga to provide a little bit better screening at the door and window level. Let's see, I'm trying to see if is the lighting sheet separate? Could you scroll down one more sheet and see if, 2 more, sorry. 3 more. There we go. So the landscape lighting's just meant to augment the architectural lighting since the proximity of the structures are pretty close together. We just wanted to make sure we accented where there's stairs in the pathways, and then to make sure there's enough light to light the walkways around the common circulation areas. And we've used this WAC light fixture. It's full cut off. The bulb is hidden top and looks similar to the architectural wedge light. So we can see we have vines along the fence line. So one of the comments had been along the shared property line. We have fencing rather than a block wall, and that is to promote the health of the existing oak that's along that property line, and then also it is an internal property line. And so we have the fence, and we're proposing vines along, as well as dense hedge screening along the parking lot. So that'll be very well screened along there. I believe that is all the comments. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Were there other detail sheets you wanted to just flip through so we can kind of just take a quick peek?
You could flip through the landscape detail sheets quickly if you want while you're
Okay.
at the end of the set.
Why not?
That was the plant palette, and then there was planting and irrigation detail sheets after each of those plans, and a layout detail sheet. So you can just click a few times. You can, one more, there's the irrigation, pretty standard. And then the layout, probably one more. Yeah, we just had a concrete detail for the most part.
Okay. And then the architectural detail sheets, I know we went through some of them,
I
but,
think we went through really the,
okay.
the most relevant ones.
Okay, it's just nice to flip through them because sometimes
Okay.
we see something.
Why don't we go to sheet 25 then? And you can just kind of scroll through the next 3 or 4 pages. You don't have to zoom in.
Yeah, just flip through the sheets so we,
Basically the cladding, then the doors and windows. The lovely single ply. And let's see, keep scrolling.
Interiors.
Yeah, just interior stuff. That's not really.
great. Okay. If that is it, we can open public comment. Do we have any speaker slips or online comment?
Thank you, Chair Moore. As of right now, I don't have anyone in Zoom for virtual public comment. I also do not have any speaker slips, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item.
Okay, great. Let's close public comment and go to questions. Who'd like to start? Mr. Six, go ahead.
Yes, I'm assuming that your stop and start with tiled plaster is always a reveal,
Correct.
okay? And does the parapet have, is it a wraparound plaster or is it?
No, it's a metal coping. It's shown detail 5 here on this sheet. So it's a fairly kind of,
So that would be painted out or would it be the black?
no, it would be painted to match the plaster.
Okay. And then the LED wraparound on your
Carport.
carport, where are those and how exposed are they? And, you know, the rest of the project is so beautiful. Those seem to be very utilitarian. Are they hidden or?
Yes, let's go to sheet 19, please.
We might be able to drive
Oh,
ourselves now.
can we? Yeah, see if that works. Okay. Let's see if I don't crash it again.
And then I think you can maybe close that sidebar too.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, we can.
So maybe the best place would be this. Oh boy. Apologize for my clunky. Trying to zoom in on this section here, but it's not. There we go. So they occur on the underside of the carport. So They are essentially at this level here, and at the perimeter, there's this beam, so those are pretty well screened. And let's see if I can get to the other section here. That might show that a little better. Yeah, well, yeah.
So there's just a skirt around the total
Basic,
parking
yeah.
roof?
Essentially, yes, there's a perimeter of the drop beam, and so that those lights occur kind of up in this level. It's a plaster lid, so they're basically tucked up about a foot.
So you feel confident that they will disappear?
Yeah, I think, unless you're like actually at the very edge of this carport looking up, you're not going to really see them from the public way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Questions? Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
What was the finish of the landscape light?
I believe it was dark bronze, which is it's a powder coated finish through that manufacturer.
And that's the same as the architectural lighting, the exterior?
The architectural lighting is a factory black finish, yeah.
We can make sure ours matches if it's requested. We generally go with the dark bronze just in the landscape.
Yeah,
'cause
for
it's
sure.
more muted.
Okay, and then can you point out the backflow device location in the landscape plan?
Well, since these are R3 duplexes and essentially single family, the sprinkler system is a domestic system. So it's
Okay.
just a small
Okay.
assembly on the back side of each unit.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
And irrigation, though? Isn't there separate irrigation backflow? No? Did I misunderstand?
There's a separate irrigation meter. We're using the existing meter to the property for irrigation.
No, I meant the backflow preventer, which would be on your irrigation plan, I assume.
Yeah, let's go to the irrigation plan. So it's in the planter for the unit along Ocean View. So it'll be tucked behind. We have it'll be a small backflow preventer, as Keith noted. Actually, I think we only have the one located, but we can. Does it need to be divided between units?
No, there's
Yeah,
The,
so it'll just be the
irrigation's
one
common.
location deep into the bed, so it'll be hidden.
I assume all the
in there.
landscape is common, yes?
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you'll have one irrigation system, one
Yeah.
backflow preventer?
That's why I just wanted to
Correct.
confirm, but yes, we currently just have the one.
Okay, so I'm sorry, so where is it exactly?
Right where the cursor is there, and we'll make sure it's into the bed there. That's a deep enough bed that we can tuck it behind the planting.
Okay. So you're comfortable with the planting that you have chosen right there?
Yes.
As far as, okay. Thank you. I didn't have any other questions.
Mr. New?
Just a quick one to carry or follow up on the lighting. I understand the cylinder is a black or a bronze. The little pedestal landscape light is black or bronze. Is the wedge also intended to be
It's
that
black
color?
as well,
Okay,
yes.
not like white to, paint, to match the wall, but okay.
No
It'll be on
questions.
that concrete, which is kind of the pewter gray. So.
Okay. Do you have a follow-up question?
Well, I was just wondering if we can look at another photograph of that LED wraparound. Is it indeed
Just
as?
not liking that wrap.
No.
We've, to the applicant, we've taken back control.
be
So
page
just let us
30.
know.
And how many of them are there?
There's not that many. Oops, I'm sorry, page 67. Boy. Too many sheets. We can zoom out. So you can see the plan there below. So there's basically one in each stall.
Would you be, it's such a beautiful project, can you upgrade that particular lighting?
I'm sure we could. Perhaps something that would be recessed into the lid.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we can manage that.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? I just had a follow-up. So on your parapet detail, Vice Chair Six brought that up. You've got a sheet metal flashing there. It's going to be painted to match,
Coping, yes.
and that's a typical detail throughout.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. If that's the end of the questions, let's go to comments. Who would like to start? Anybody?
No comments?
Okay. Mr. Olson, no comments. Mr. Whalen?
None.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, a compliment on the beautiful project. I think it's very nice. And as my two issues would be to upgrade the carport lighting, and I think we should include in our final approval that the backflow, landscape backflow preventer to be shoved back as far as away from the street as possible. And those are my comments.
Okay. Anyone else? I mean, I agree. It's a well-crafted project, which is why I asked about that parapet cap. I mean, it really feels like it deserves a plaster wrap on top of that. So, I don't know. What does the rest of the board think about that?
If I may, okay.
Anyone else agree, disagree?
I would consider the cap to be, we could match the window frames and make it actually a feature instead of trying to match. If there's a cost associated with the plaster.
Mr. Chair,
I would weigh in for the metal because I just think it ages better when you have a plaster. It tends to not degrade, but mar the sheet wall below it in unattractive ways.
So you mean
The rounded plaster
okay.
tends to sheet the water, and
Okay.
it's either a mold or a discoloration that happens. So I think a sheet metal cap prevents that much better.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I'm getting such a strong vibe from the applicant that I have to hold on to my chair that it's a maintenance issue.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that the architecture is such that the very classic wraparound that we see in more traditional architecture doesn't need to be happen here.
Okay, well, I'll let that go if the board is feeling that way. Okay, any other comments? No? Vice Chair Six, you had your two comments. Do you want to make those into a motion?
Yes, I would make a motion for final approval with a very handsome project, with the two comments being that the applicant will upgrade the surface-mounted LED wraparound fixtures in the carport lid to a recessed fixture appropriate to the quality of architecture, and that number two, the backflow preventer shall be moved as far away in the planter from the property line as possible to help disguise it.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Second.
Got it. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's take a vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Olson, Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Do we need to announce the appeal period as well?
Oh, thank you.
If we can put that on the screen, potentially. Thank you.
It's not adjourned.
And there's the appeal process on the screen. Thank you. And we are going to recess until
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Too bad.
Thank you.
2 and open that item and then, proceed to close it.
Mr. Chair, if you could just continue it indefinitely, that would, just to make that announcement that it's postponed indefinitely.
Okay. So as we reopen our meeting and move on to item number 2, this item has been continued indefinitely, so we will close that item, move on to item number 3, which we're ready for you. And this is 311 West Montecito Street. And this is a new item for concept review. It's a proposal for a new 2-story, 3,852 square foot hotel containing 3 units. Each hotel unit would include a kitchenette, living room, 2 bedrooms, and outdoor space. Hotel amenities include drop-off, check-in, concierge, etc. Hotel amenities, including those, would be provided at 302 West Montecito Street, the primary hotel location. Parking would also be provided at 302 West Montecito Street via a shared parking agreement. The project requires a development plan and coastal development permit approval by the staff hearing officer. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. The project will require compliance with the project compatibility findings and the urban design guidelines. Okay, welcome. If you could give us your name and walk us through your project.
Thank you. My name is Noah Greer, and I'm one of the architects working on the project. And I'll start us with a sort of zoomed out site plan. The project is an annex to a much larger hotel with a parking structure associated with it. So just to give your board a sense of the proximity of the two, 311 West Montecito, this is the parcel that we're talking about today. And the walking path to get to the hotel is, I don't know, 80 feet, let's say 80 plus feet, something like that, in terms of as a bird flies, as a crow flies, one of those birds. That is, of course, subject to planning approval. At this point, it seems like that's acceptable to the planning department. So starting with the site plan here. The existing site is developed with a small bungalow and a large parking lot. Both of those are proposed for demolition. The proposed project is a 2-story, sort of courtyard-like floor plan on the first floor. There are 3 hotel units, each of which are 2-bedroom units. And we will be looking closer at the floor plan. The site itself is zoned commercial, so the development envelope actually extends to the parcel boundaries on 3 sides. And we're proposing a substantially stepped-in building from what we're allowed, with 7 and 10 foot setbacks on the east side, 7 foot on the west side, and I believe it's 16 feet on the south side, and then 12.6 or so at the street. Okay, the site itself is about a 1/10 of an acre. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more for you all. There we go. Or just over 5,600 square feet. It is a great location in many ways, in that it's walkable to the it's stumbleable to and from the Funk Zone. It's walkable to the beach. There are a lot of bars and restaurants, entertainment, shopping markets, etc. nearby. On the other hand, it's a challenging site. It's a very, very busy street. It is known for, let's say, petty theft occurring. It's noisy at that street, and for that reason, this design aimed to provide a certain amount of, say, privacy and security. The neighborhood itself is great. It's interesting. It's eclectic. It's a wide variety of architectural styles. In the immediate vicinity of this property, we'll have the new hotel, which of course is very Spanish. There are a number of existing Spanish developments as well, and we'll be looking at aerials of the site later. But suffice to say, it's a very, very eclectic neighborhood. In terms of uses, there's a mix of apartments, businesses, offices. Adjacent to us on the west, we have a 2-story apartment complex. Adjacent to us on the east, we have a small market and a restaurant. And then adjacent to us on the south, we have a 2-story apartment building, really a parking lot, and then behind that, a 2-story apartment building. Okay. Now looking at the floor plans. Okay, first floor here on the right. The first floor massing, we made an effort, I should say, to carve away at the massing of the first floor footprint. It isn't completely legible here. Obviously, what is legible is the central courtyard on the east side. Then at the street side, we'll see this in 3D model later. This is an open patio with a garden wall of, let's say, 5 to 6 feet. So the appearance of the mass is quite varied. And then as you go up to the second floor, you'll see there are a number of instances where you see the first floor roof because we've stepped the second floor behind. Right. And then the same condition exists here on the second floor where the patio, my cut line was cutting through what's probably a 42, 46 inch high wall at what's actually an open patio. Okay, very quickly glancing at our roof plan here, you'll see we have a mix of flat roofs and parapet with the intention to use this parapet roof section here to hide our solar, and then mission tile, Spanish tile roofs at a 3 and 12 roof slope for, let's say, half or so of the roof. All right, looking at the elevations, starting with the street elevation and what we see from Montecito Street. Okay, the primary entrance, again, since we have remote parking, is a pedestrian access here on the left through this gate. And you'll see where we pushed the second floor massing back behind the first floor patio and garden wall that I was mentioning here at the center. First floor plate height, 10 feet. Second floor plate height proposed is 9 feet. Okay. The style of the project, again, is Spanish to give it a relationship to the larger hotel for which it's an annex. Okay, turning the corner now. Looking at the east elevation, the primary entrance is here on the right. As you walk through that the gate there, you come into the central courtyard here. The detailing, pretty traditional Spanish, obviously TBD in terms of the details, but the idea being that we have ironwork that relates back to the ironwork on the main hotel. This elevation faces the restaurant, which as it faces this elevation is, or excuse me, the existing store market. The restaurant is behind that. So this faces a single-story market. Okay. Turning the corner again, slowly but surely. Now we're looking at the south elevation. This is the back of the parcel, faces a parking lot and then a 2-story apartment complex that we'll see in 3D model. Massing there pretty simple, but again, an effort was made to keep it varied from all the elevations. And then lastly, we'll look here at the west elevation. This is the elevation that faces an existing 2-story apartment complex. And here you can see where we have a mix of the parapet roofs and the sloped roofs. And this is on the second floor, that open patio that I was talking about. All right, I think that's it for elevations. Jumping into the landscape. There are a lot of Latin words I don't understand on this plan, so I'll keep it brief. The good news is that because we have substantially larger setbacks than are required, we have the opportunity to have a fair amount of landscape plantings. I'll give you the planting list there on the bottom right. So at the street, we have an existing large jacaranda within the parkway. We're proposing 2 to 3, probably hopefully 3 new canopy trees, all of which are currently slated as jacarandas. One here at the front of the parcel, and then at the rear of the parcel you see 2 proposed jacarandas there. In terms of the site, obviously we enter here from the top right. We have a central courtyard with a small fountain, and then at the rear we have a private patio for one of those suites. Apart from that, we have a number of palms and shrubs and ground cover. All right, now I'm going to jump into the 3D renders. This is really rough massing. Please don't, it doesn't really represent the finer details very well. But our project, obviously, is here. It will generally be located in the middle. We're seeing the 2-story apartments on the west there, and then on the east, this is a single story. The market I was referencing, restaurant over here on the first floor. Okay. We'll flip here, another view. And then lastly, here's another view. I would argue that the overall height is not significantly taller than any of the adjacent buildings. It is probably taller at the top of the parapet by a couple feet. But we did make an effort to vary the massing, so any one elevation, I would argue, doesn't feel too massive and overwhelming when compared to the surrounding structures. We have one last view looking over the top of the adjacent apartment building. And this is that large parking lot I keep referencing for some reason adjacent to the two-story apartment complex here. All right, we're now changing angles. We're looking sort of southeast. Our parcel is here. Here we're seeing the two-story apartments, the one-story market, and the restaurant here, and then the parking lot that I so love, and the two-story apartments back here right behind the site. The new hotel is proposed in this area here, where 7-Eleven is located right about here. Okay, similar view, different angle. Subject parcel, apartments, restaurant, and shop. New hotel located here on this corner parcel here. To orient you, this is 7-Eleven and the corner of Castillo and Montecito over here. And then this is that two-story apartment complex. Okay, lastly, I have 3, again, rough street renders. So here we're looking roughly directly south at the project, pedestrian entrance on the left. What's not showing so clearly is my playful finial here, perhaps a bit of a pineapple or something similar to tie into the proposed hotel. Disappeared completely from this rendering, but I think you get the basic idea of how set back the second story is. And last render here with the pedestrian access in the foreground. There we have it. So in conclusion, we made an effort to design a site-appropriate building that had a fair amount of movement and didn't feel out of scale. I hope your board will agree. Happy to talk through it. Definitely what we're proposing is far less than the bulk and scale we're allowed on the site. And I hope you'll support the overall direction so we can continue to refine it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll open public comment.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I currently do not have any attendees in Zoom. I also do not have any speaker slips. We did receive written correspondence from Missy Zaitzoff, Bonnie Donovan, and Christine Neuhauser, which was distributed to the board prior to this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can close public comment and go to questions from the board. Mr. Whalen?
Sure. Is there any existing landscaping to be retained and reincorporated?
Mr. Whalen, there is no landscaping that was deemed worthy of retaining.
Thank you. And then if you could go to the second floor plan at the patio of the upstairs unit, what are the 2 squares down in the, are those shafts, or they don't occur on the roof plan? So what are those?
Thank you, Mr. Whalen. The intention there is that we're going to frame something like perhaps an outdoor seating area or an outdoor fireplace.
Thank you. And then do you have a notion where the transformer and backflow, utilities, all of those lovely pieces of the puzzle are going to go?
We initially, yes and no, in short.
I like that
say.
answer.
We initially planned for them where we ended up, just recently we confirmed we'll need some stormwater infrastructure in this area here, essentially right behind the gate. So in short, TBD where those will land.
All right. And then a final question that's probably more for staff and not really germane to our charge here, but what is it that differentiates a hotel unit from a condominium unit?
Mr. Chair, through you to Board Member Whalen. So generally, we look at different land uses. So within the municipal code, and I think this falls under Title 28, if I'm correct, that the code identifies residential uses, and a condominium is a residential use, and a hotel or a short-term rental is a commercial use. And so there's different regulations, such as parking. So landscaping requirements. We can go through the entire code and distinguish regulations for residential versus hotel. And Ms. DeBusk is here to maybe be more specific about a condominium.
Yeah, thank you. For the board, one of the main differences is whether or not there's a kitchen. Essentially, if there is a kitchen, then it needs to be parked as if it's a residential unit. So a lot of the residential standards then start applying. We do have limits on or definitions of what constitutes a kitchen. In this case, they're proposing a kitchenette, so there's maximum sizes on counter and sinks, et cetera. So we did look at those things to confirm that it's meeting the hotel definition.
Thank you, that's very thorough. Those are all my questions.
Okay. Mr. Olson, any questions?
Mr. Whalen asked all my questions.
Excellent. Mr. Noon?
This is deep into the site, but the stair, is that, currently you're showing it just open railing?
That's correct at this time.
Yep. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Black?
No questions from me.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes, the staff did not, this question on residential use versus a condominium, is there any after the fact surveillance that's done to determine that there's not an abuse? I know this is not our purview, but it certainly
It's just about what I was going to say.
is lining up to look like residential units without the need for parking on the site. And I just, again, it's not our purview, but it's certainly suspicious.
Thank you. Yes, for the question. That is something that after the fact would be handled through enforcement, so basically complaint-based. There are certain things that, as you mentioned, it's outside the purview of the board, but things that planning does look at to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to set it up so that it's not as likely to be converted, but ultimately it's a complaint-based enforcement process.
Okay. And just the new hotel you speak of is the one on the corner. I didn't.
Correct.
Okay. So it will work with the new hotel on the corner.
Correct.
Okay. And then I understand your issue with the neighborhood being subject to the rough. Is there a way to visually, and maybe only partial, visually open up your patio to the street and your courtyard to the street with wrought iron or others? Would you feel comfortable exploring that if that turned out to be a comment?
I'm happy to explore them. I know that the owner does have strong feelings about security, and I'll be happy to explore those ideas with them.
Yeah, well, just like a simple, like a simple wrought iron gate instead of a solid door would be, fully secure. But I'll go into that later. And then, do we have any the property to the west, to the east, which is the market? That certainly doesn't have any. That's just the back of a commercial area. And we don't have a photograph of that, do we? And that's just,
And I'm sorry, I'm not clear on which area were you referring to, the market?
There's no privacy issues there, it's just the back wall of a market, correct?
Yes, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, but then on the east side, there is a livable apartment building. Is there any, I guess what I'm, is there any images of how your windows and so forth on your west side influence or influence the privacy of the existing apartment building?
Mr. Six, at this point, I don't have those images. I can say that on the second floor apartments here, they have your sort of classic 1960s apartment style open balconies that open to, so you have a number of front doors as if it were an old motel or something.
So there
There are doors and windows facing here. They are set back in this portion of the building, and the elevation that we have that faces them, I would argue, doesn't exactly have ample windows
Okay.
intentionally for that reason, but that is this elevation here.
So the windows on that existing apartment are already subject to the people in that project passing by on the balconies or below anyway, right?
It appears that way from the street to me.
Okay, thank you. Those are the end of my questions.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
I just have a few. Are you proposing a fence around the boundary or just at the entry?
At this point, we're proposing a fence around the entirety of the perimeter except at the front of the parcel where we have the stuccoed masonry wall that then wraps the corner a little.
Okay. And I was a little unclear, so the hotel that this is part of is not yet there and is coming under application or something, and it's the same style as this one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. It's traditional Spanish in detailing, in massing, one might say it's more of contemporary in terms of massing, just because of the size of the hotel. But it's certainly of a family. And that project has received planning commission approval,
Oh, you
but
guys
is
already
still,
saw it. Okay.
still going through the process.
Got it. Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay. So you don't have any other street photos of the surrounding?
I do not.
Okay. That's something that we should always have for any project. What do the neighboring sites look like, et cetera?
Yeah.
And it would also be helpful in the future to bring the elevations of the hotel that's proposed, since there's a relationship.
Agreed.
But on this, so tell me a little bit more about the massing in general. Like I can understand the intent to set the second floor back to try and reduce the mass at the street, but it seems like that comes at the cost of, the plan in general. Like you have to go through some machinations to get that front little courtyard tucked in there, and then you end up with these sort of kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of a ungainly kind of lower walls at the front. Was there a version that you studied where you didn't step this far back at the second floor? And would that give you more flexibility with the courtyard layout, et cetera?
Mr. Chair, I'd say I think, to be honest, the second floor generally stayed in the same place. There were some explorations of having a single first floor mass at the front, and I understand they feel ungainly to you. The intention was to create some sort of more interesting, more intimate spaces, and then when we landed on the sort of small central courtyard, we thought it was sort of a fun way to provide an openable door to the street for that unit while still providing sufficient privacy and security and noise shadowing, quite frankly, tucked between those two masses and that garden wall. So it certainly isn't the only solution, but that's the reason we ended up proposing what we are.
Okay. And then the palm trees in the background here, is this artistic license or are they existing?
There's a considerable amount of artistic license used with the landscape. There are some plantings that exist along the adjacent property. Some very, very tall bushes between our property and my parking lot for the two-story apartments.
But not yours?
But generally, as we're looking from the street elevation back, there's more than palms. You'll see two-story buildings.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Whalen?
Yes, tearing off your most recent question, Mr. Moore, that big clump of plantings, Mr. Greer, and it's apparent on your aerial photo of the southwest, I believe. Is that on the neighboring parcel? Let's see, is that the one? No, that's the northeast. Let me get accommodated here. Yes, that clump.
This clump here.
Whose clump is that? Is that?
As I understand it, is a multi-ownership clump, and I believe that the portion of that clump on this property no longer exists.
All right, and then relating to Mr. Six's comment, are there any openings on the two-story element of the building adjacent?
And so I understand the question. This apartment building?
No,
Or
the one behind
this?
that's screened by the clump of trees, that one. Yes.
Ah, I see. Okay, if I can refer to the site plan.
It would be, yes, right there.
Yeah. I do not know.
Okay,
I'd be
thank
happy to
you.
get back to you.
That's my only concluding question.
Okay, go ahead.
A follow-up. The trash walls are a lot higher than they need to be. Is that just an artistic attempt or desire to have variation in that front elevation?
We can say attempt. That's precisely what it is. This is essentially unused space with a taller parapet to give us some more differentiation between these two small masses.
And then just to follow up on Chair Moore's, I think that you should submit your background to an art show.
It is nice. Very nice. Any other questions? I know, it is. Okay, so no more questions. Let's go to comments. So this is concept review level comments. Who'd like to start? Mr. Whalen? Go ahead.
Sure. Could you go to the west elevation? This is the one facing the apartment building. I think this could use a little more articulation. It seems extremely flat. Perhaps the patio at the second floor could be recessed. It just doesn't seem to match the other three elevations in their articulation and modulation of massing. I think you could study or think about awnings that cover the entry to the suite 102 and 101 on the first floor, although 101 seems to have some sort of corner chopped out of it that might serve as an awning or an entry cover. And then the same might be said for suite 201 balconies. Those may not need coverings such as main door coverings need. And then lastly, if you could go to the north elevation, the one on Montecito Street, and this is very personal, that entry gate just looks awkward underneath the buttress. There's something that doesn't work in my architect's mind. And if the gate were moved farther to the east, sort of centered under the flat version, this also might add some interest to the entry pathway, which now you open the gate and you immediately see the fountain down there. And if it were jogged with plantings, it might add a little more interest and resolve, to my eye, that awkward location of the gate in that wall. Thank you.
Okay. And jump down to the other end, mix it up a little, Ms. Anderson?
All right. I feel like the height is okay and the massing is pretty appropriate for the location. Same with the style of architecture. I do have some trouble with the street elevation. It just doesn't seem to engage the street. And I know there's security issues, so I would consider studying alternative methods to open that up, or give some relief to the street. I guess I would refer to Mr. Black on this comment, but I would think that jacarandas would get too big, and I'm not sure that they would be appropriate, but I'll let him comment on that. And I think it would be nice to see pictures of the hotel that this is an annex to, so that I can understand this project better.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Olson?
Thank you. I think the architectural massing and the traditional Spanish details here are quite successful. I don't disagree with Mr. Whalen's idea about that front door, but all in all, considering the problems that you outlined because of the noise and the traffic on that corner, I see the need for some of this attention to backing off a bit from that street, and this seems to do that. I think also that my concerns are about use and and I don't think that's in our purview.
Okay. Vice Chair Six?
Yes, thanks. I also resonate with Mr. Olson on challenges to the use and if this is the best use of the property. Again, just a flag to others that might have the purview to approach those issues. They should. I think that the architecture is successful as it is, and I resonate with several comments on the openness of the front to provide more interest into the interiors, yet solving the security issues. And I think that as again was stated, that the form to the front left of the front elevation needs to be looked at, and the trash tower brought down and the gate moved and so forth, so it needs to be revised. And when it comes back, I think we should see the image of the back end of the I guess it's the restaurant, the east property, especially the two-story portion of in the back, and the fence details around the perimeter of the property. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Noon?
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot more to add to all of that. I think it is very successful. I mean, the fact that your size is much smaller than you're allowed, I think that says, that and the architecture itself, you're doing the right things in the right elevations. I didn't agree with the comment about the drawing number 2, that needed more articulation. There's not a lot of view over there, but if the applicant feels strongly about it, then that's you've done a nice job on all the others. So I'm in support of the project. I would add, though, I would like to continue to see pic photos of surrounding properties. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. I think it's I think it's an attractive building, and look forward to seeing it developed in the future. As far as the landscape concerned, I realize this is just at concept stage, so perhaps you bring your landscape architect the next time to we can talk about the details about whether jacaranda is appropriate for those spaces or not. But generally speaking, the spaces might be a little bit small for that particular tree. So, and I didn't see the plan showing many palms, despite what your rendering show. So maybe palms is a good idea. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I think at least being familiar with the location and site, I feel like the massing is appropriate for the neighborhood. The height is fine. I think the design aesthetic is fine. But we really need those to see the context photos, and that while the aerial images are nice, they just don't give us the view from the ground, and especially to try and confirm any privacy issues. We need to have those. I think the elevations are successful with the exception of the street facing elevation. I think it just needs a restudy, and the reason I brought up, or I asked a question about the second story massing, was perhaps there's a way to modulate that massing a little bit more, such that it allows for or gives you greater flexibility on the ground level, so that you can, rather than having these pieces out against the street, that there's they're actually the architecture instead of walls, and then this we're spending a lot of time talking about this funny little buttress scroll detail, but I don't think you really need that if you're really bringing the architecture out there and solving the design problem that way. And I think, yes, there's security issues. I understand that there's noise, but this is an urban location, and I think if you go to this hotel, you have to expect that there's going to be some noise there. And I think if you take a look at the urban design guidelines, it talks specifically about this kind of thing, where we don't want to be closed off from the street like this. We want to, regardless of the concerns, we don't want to perpetuate that in the streetscape. So I would encourage you to take a look at those urban design guidelines, because that's what this project is being compared to. Those are my comments. Any follow-up? No? Okay. Well, we need a motion.
And Mr. Chair, if I could speak. Thank you. So I just want to remind the board that this project requires a development plan and a coastal development permit that will be reviewed by the staff hearing officer. So in your motion, you should just please consider whether you want to see this project once more for a second concept review prior to forwarding to the staff hearing officer, or if you think it's ready to go to the staff hearing officer. Naturally, it would come back for project design approval and final approval.
Okay. Should we do a straw vote to determine whether the board feels it's ready to move on to the staff hearing officer?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do a show of hands. How many board members feel the project is ready to move on to the staff hearing officer? Okay. That is a majority, so yes. then I would suggest that one of those folks who raise their hands make a motion for that.
I'll make a motion that this would be continued to staff hearing officer, and that it is with the following, how do we say that it comes back here?
Well, I guess, sorry to interrupt, Mr. Noonan, we should also ask the applicant if that's what they would like at this time, or would they prefer to come back to the board?
We'd prefer the option to go straight to the staff hearing officer.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so our motion would be that we recommend that is ready to go to the staff hearing officer, and I would include the following comments as we continue to review. And I'm going to need help relaying these again. The board is in general supportive of the project, the size, and the scale of the project. The board would like to see further development according to the guidelines along the streetscape. I don't remember the other.
We wanted
Oh,
to see.
yes. The board would like to see more pictures of the surrounding sites. Anything else?
Indication of the perimeter fencing. Indication of the perimeter fencing. Indication of the perimeter fencing.
Indication of the perimeter fencing. Can you explain? Can you develop that a little?
Oh, he says it will be fenced, and what is it, and where is it?
Okay, material.
Design of materials.
Design and material of the perimeter fencing.
Landscape architect next to it.
And before, I guess before PDA, we'd see landscape architect, hear from them. I don't have any more unless anybody wants to add anything.
Would you consider adding, studying the entry openness and the street presence as far as massing?
I feel that, in having the applicant take another approach or another stab at, I don't want to say study that again, but, continue to develop, I think is the word I used, the streetscape. I think that, that gives them an opportunity to come back with a design that they would want to present.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, can we add, provide photos of the hotel that it's associated with?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay. Any other discussion? No?
Do you want to mention the urban design guidelines, or is that?
I believe you did under comment number 2.
Oh,
I did.
you
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Yeah. Well, if that's the end of discussion, I just want to say that I'm not going to vote for that motion because I feel like the design needs further development and study in order to, and also we need more information about the surrounding area to confirm if there's any issues or no issues with privacy, and just in general, I don't think the design is quite ready for that. So if it does go on and gets an approval, and maybe staff can weigh in on this, once the staff hearing officer gives some sort of approval, or what does that mean for the design in general? Is that mass, bulk, and scale, or is it, what does that give the applicant at that
Mr. Chair, through you to the board. So basically, it's a land use decision. The development plan is a land use decision as well as the coastal development permit. So all of this project has to comply with our local coastal plan and the different elements of that. In terms, the staff hearing officer does look at privacy. They do look at operations. They're trying to understand how do people come in, if there are any privacy issues. And sometimes there might be conditions added to a project to address some of those concerns, looking at noise. But this is the board that designs, or that reviews the design. So there can still be changes to the design, but it's a little bit of an iterative process in some instances. Sometimes it's really clear where the staff hearing officer kind of draws the line, and other times, in this case, it might be a little bit more of a conversation with privacy. I don't know if Ms. DeBusk, if you want to add anything to that, but I can generally say that if there is, if you don't necessarily agree with this motion, we want to be really clear to capture the reason why you don't think that it's ready to be continued to the staff hearing officer, to inform the staff hearing officer of like what, that there's some slight discrepancies between the board members' opinions.
Thank you, Ms. Kokinda. And I would agree with that, and maybe just add that the staff hearing officer approval generally sets the mass bulk and scale based on your favorable feedback to the staff hearing officer. But that doesn't mean that there's no room to play with the setbacks a little bit. It's a 2-story building. That's essentially part of the approval. So that part couldn't change. But that doesn't mean you can't manipulate some of the forms there. However, if there were privacy concerns, for example, the staff hearing officer might set that setback from the other building, and that might be more set in stone than typically. So it is iterative. If the design changes somewhat significantly, staff might do a substantial conformance determination, which essentially says the land use is the same, but the design has changed a little bit through the design review process, which is something we expect, which is why we have a substantial conformance process.
I have a question
Okay,
for staff.
thank you. Go ahead.
So is it inappropriate for us in our motion to include any of the concerns that the members have about use?
My initial response, Mr. Chair, through you, that this board is tasked to look at the design. It doesn't mean that land use issues come up, but I do think it's probably most appropriate to focus on the design aspect of it. But we heard you. It's part of the public record that there were questions about it. As the staff hearing officer generally reviews the videos and the content, so it will be noted as part of that.
Thank you.
If I could,
Okay.
just as we deliberate.
Yeah.
Chair Moore, I had a similar concern looking at it, but as an annex to the main building, I guess that was less of a, I don't know if that helps your concern at all, but that was, it seemed more appropriate, I guess, to make this sort of its own isolated piece.
No, and I can understand that. It's just, to my eye, it seems particularly unfriendly towards the street, and I don't think that's what we want in general. So,
Mr. Chair, I think the only thing I heard from staff that would influence my voting no in forwarding it to the staff hearing officer was that they would like to have assistance in the privacy issues. So it would seem to me that if we ferret those out here, it would assist the staff hearing officer to be more confident that we feel confident about the privacy. So therefore, I'm going to be voting no.
okay.
Mr. Chair, so we do have a motion on the floor, and I think it has been seconded, so we
It has. We do need to wrap up that process. So if there any more discussion regarding this motion, no, then we can take our vote.
Can we have the motion read, please?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
can.
Motion is to continue to staff hearing officer for then return to the full board with the following comments. The board is in general support of the size and scale of the project. The board would like to see the continuing development according to the guidelines along the streetscape. The board would like to see more pictures of the surrounding sites. The applicant shall provide design materials of the perimeter fencing. The board would like the landscape architect to be present when the project returns to the full board. And the applicant shall provide photos of the hotel that is associated with.
Okay, does that sound right? Okay, then let's take our vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I will go ahead and take the roll call vote. Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Board Member Olson?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
No.
Chair Moore?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay.
And if,
Thank you very
just for the record, if we could get your reasons specifically, that will help the staff hearing officer.
My no vote was generally because I don't think the project design is quite ready yet for that, and there's a lot of material that is incomplete with the application. For instance, the standard photos that are what we always see with these projects were not presented. So we have no way of knowing if there are any conflicts or issues with the neighbors. We just don't have enough information to give the staff hearing officer proper direction. So,
I have nothing to add.
okay. Well, thank you.
Can I just make a general comment? I've noticed sort of, do we need to?
If you could please just open it and make an announcement that it's postponed. Thank you.
Okay, and then moving on to item 4, we'll open that and just notify everyone that that item has been continued indefinitely. And we can close item 4. And if we're going to have a discussion, does that need to be on?
We can adjourn the meeting, I believe.
Pardon me. I think it might be most appropriate to raise it right now and then to adjourn.
Okay, go
But
ahead, Mr.
it
Black.
can't necessarily be a discussion, but if you want to communicate something to staff.
Yeah, this is not an issue that has to do with any specific project, but I just noticed, you know, just generally speaking, that we rarely have enough site photographs. You know, I mean, I go online and they're either not there or it's minimum, and it just, you know, and here's a perfect example. And I just think, you know, that's sort of falls back on staff to make sure that if they're submitting plans, that the photographs ought to be there too, and if not, then we shouldn't review it. 'Cause, you know,
Naturally. Yeah,
so I think if you guys just lay down the law with the applicants in terms of providing these photographs, I think that would help a lot.
thank you for the feedback. And Mr. Chair, through you, we will communicate that to staff, make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to comment on the staff ability to bring the temperature up in this room.
You have a jacket on.
Oh my goodness, it is freezing in here.
Yes, thanks. Okay. Well, with that, we can adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.